How's about we review Raw, eh? Because we're in Canada today. Because it's Raw, live from Canada, the night after Backlash 2004, but why this particular show, Piggy?
Well, because an instant classic gets an instant classic backup. Now, you may talk about your Shawn Michaels with your Diesels, but nothing can compare to, well, this is the pre-Christian coalition, but this is the genesis of the Christian coalition. That's right, the original Christian coalition. Christian, Tyson Tomko, or he's later known as Tomko, and Trish Stratus. The Christian coalition.
They are very much a new pairing, are Christian and Trish, having betrayed Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. And, you know, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about a certain crippler who is featured very heavily on this show as he is the world champion. And we've also got a massive tag team main event for the World Tag Team Championships and a big match as well between Christian and Chris Jericho to kick us off. But we'll talk about that in due course. Before we kind of talk about nostalgia or this show even, we can kind of talk about Christian Cage, because this is the Christian arc. So what we've done already, we've done the night he debuted at Judgment Day 98, the first ever tag team ladder match from No Mercy 99, and also No Mercy 2001, where he had his first big feud against Edge. And it's weird why we've skipped ahead 3 years, but I can kind of explain why we've kind of decided to skip ahead 3 years. Christian wasn't really doing anything of note. I mean, he was doing bits and pieces here and there. For instance, after losing to Edge at No Mercy 2001, he went on to have quite an entertaining feud with Diamond Dallas Page, it must be said, for the European Championship, and he had a little tantrum fit, but he was very much a lower mid-card guy for a number of years. In 2002, he also joined the Un-Americans, but I feel like that wasn't enough of a chapter in his career to really cover in depth. He also had a partnership with Chris Jericho, who he's now feuding with on Raw here at this time, and that was entertaining too, but Christian wasn't really the centerpiece of that. He really started to gain traction in 2003, where he won the Intercontinental Championship. He cut his hair, he changed his look, started having feuds with the likes of Rob Van Dam, had a great ladder match. That would have been actually a good show to review, actually, to be fair, in hindsight, but we wanted to kind of skip ahead to now. This is kind of, I don't want to say the culmination of his character arc in terms of him changing from the Edge and Christian days to the instant classic Christian, which he is kind of getting into here. So, yeah, he's been a heel throughout this whole time. He was teaming with Jericho, and then they had a bet over who could sleep with Trish Stratus first, and then Jericho ended up catching feelings for Trish, made a feud into WrestleMania 20, where Christian betrayed Chris Jericho and aligned himself with Trish Stratus, and now they are an item, and Jericho and Christian are fighting. And yeah, I don't know if you want to comment on those years between like 2001 to 2004 for Christian. Like, what were your thoughts on that kind of run for him?
Fun fact, just literally, because I forgot to mention it in not last week's episode, because last week's episode was whoa, whoa, WrestleMania, whoa. But anyways, did you like the Australian icon? But on our previous week, the No Mercy 2001, a fact I forgot to mention is literally a week after Christian wins the European Championship, but it's not counted because they never broadcasted the match. So they just randomly say, well, Christian won it.
Wasn't it on a SmackDown? I think it might have been on a SmackDown taping, but they cut it for time.
Yeah, they cut it for time.
Which is weird for a title change. That you're like, oh, it's not important enough.
You could have cut Maven versus Taz.
Like, innit?
Because let's be honest, who wants to see Taz in 2001 versus Maven?
I would watch Taz any era. I'm a hardcore Tan fan? Taz fan. Yeah. And Maven's fine too, I guess. But yeah, those kind of years where he's morphing from still having the long hair, the Christian era, if you will, the Un-Americans, and then kind of cutting his hair. What are your thoughts on that? Do you like the new look that he's gone for in 2003?
I love short hair Christian.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really have short hair now. He has more of a fringe now. Like, if you look at it, like his hair nowadays is just a bit long in the front, short in the back. But I love this very short Christian. Not as OP as bald Christian in TNA.
Oh yeah, of course. That was I don't want to say dark days for him. I think that was pretty good for him, but still, it makes him look a lot creepier as well, in my view. Looks like rat-like, with the short hair.
Yeah, like the reason we went with Christian is because of just people talk about how Chris Jericho could reinvent himself. Christian could reinvent himself. Like, he's gone from being Edge's bitch, to quote Joe Hendry, say his name when he appears. Then he's gone from being Test bitch, not to quote Joe Hendry because he's not appearing here. And then he's Trish Stratus's bitch. Christian was basically everyone's bitch. And then he left WWE. He became his own man. And that's why we're talking about him.
Well put.
I have no idea what we were originally talking about.
We were talking about what he was doing in the interim between 2001 and 2004. A transitional period for him. But you're right. He was everyone's bitch. He's kind of... He's taken more of a central role here. Because he kind of is leading the charge with Trish and Tomko. But Tomko's a different story. We'll get to that later. So that's what he's been up to. But what has the world of video games been up to? So, video games, what's out around this time? Here Comes the Pain, right?
Here Comes the Pain and Raw 2.
Have you played either of those?
I have not. Have you?
I played Here Comes the Pain a little bit, although I was more of a shut your mouth kind of guy. Like, I played that more than I did Here Comes the Pain, I believe. But I still like Here Comes the Pain. Raw 2, though, I never had an Xbox, so I never played that. Although I have heard it's been... it's better than the first one they released.
Also, WrestleMania XIX came out as well. That was released in September. So, yeah, there is 3 wrestling games. One for the GameCube, one for the Xbox, and one for PS2. What a time to be alive. I wish they still did that.
Yeah, unique titles as well for each console. That's pretty sick. But... I suppose but then, yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe a WWE game on the Switch would be interesting, like a unique, WrestleMania Revenge style thing going on. But still, a good selection of games. I know WrestleMania 19 is remembered fondly for the, was it like the one where you're the Undertaker or someone and you've got to like escape through the warehouse and break into WrestleMania or something after you're fired? I like that angle.
You're basically anyone. It could be Chris Benoit or Scott Steiner. Personally, I'd go with Scott Steiner. They basically have to kill these construction workers who are setting up WrestleMania 19. That's the game.
That's such a weird concept for a game. I love it, though. That is an interesting kind of premise. And as for action figures, what have they got around this time? I know you showed me the Wrestling Superstore. It's got a couple of interesting ones. I saw the Rey Mysterio where they based that new Ruthless Aggression on, and I believe there's an unmasked Kane on there too. Obviously, we couldn't get ringside because no one has archived ringside, so we have to use what we can. Obviously, there's an Elimination Chamber, Shawn Michaels. That looks pretty good. I'm going to click on it. Do want to have a look at it. I've seen that Elimination Chamber, Shawn Michaels looks good. That's no wrist tape, which I don't understand. Yeah. Some of them don't have pictures, but you can some of them do. They look good, though. Like, they've got a good selection there. And I noticed as well on this site, they've still got WCW and ECW stuff in stock. So, it's still fairly fresh after the both businesses closing, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, Wrestling Superstore has always been behind. Like, they still have old Survivor Series elites at the time of recording.
Ah, right. Like, fair enough.
Like wrestling, it gets a lot of hate, and most of that hate is deserved. But I will give it credit; it's been around a lot longer. It's basically what it's basically what it should be. It should have been ringside, but they fumbled the bag.
Still a decent selection. It's still interesting to see what figures they had on display back at this time. That would have been what was around in the stores anyway. So, still pretty cool. And as for the competition, I mean, TNA's kind of competition, but Do we need to talk about TNA, really?
We're not going to talk about TNA because they're still doing the weekly pay-per-views.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And we'll catch up at TNA in the Christian Cage arc.
Oh, we will. Yeah. Later on in the arc, we'll do that. But as for now, we can talk about what happened before this show, because the show that took place before this Raw was Backlash. So we'll do Backlash, and then we'll talk about what happened on SmackDown as well, just for some context. So if you want to go through that, you can.
Backlash, though, heavily... Now, I'm going to be breaking the fourth ball here. If you go on... Sorry. But if you go on the WWE Network, you will see that the poster is different. The original poster is not Foley and Orton fighting. The original poster is Benoit and a picture of Benoit screaming. He's like screaming, I don't know what he's screaming. He's probably screaming, give me KFC. But they have to obviously change it.
Yummy, yummy steroids.
So, yummy, yummy steroids was his thing. Allegedly.
Not even allegedly, it pretty much was, but yeah. But still a good show, wasn't it? It was from Canada.
Yeah, Chris Benoit defeated Shawn Michaels and Triple H by submission. I believe, if I'm correct, at WrestleMania he tapped out Triple H, and then at Backlash he tapped out Shawn Michaels. So he tapped out both members of DX. Victoria, who was champion, defeated Lita. Randy Orton, who was Intercontinental Champion, defeated Cactus Jack. Val Venus versus Matt Hardy ended with Val Venus winning. That was on, I think, Shelton Benjamin versus Ric Flair. Shelton Benjamin won. Jonathan Coachman with Garrison Cade. Is that Lance Cade later on?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, the big boy Trevor Murdoch. Oh.
Hell yeah.
Versus Tajiri ended with Jonathan Coachman. Victory by pinfall. Chris Jericho versus Christian ended with Chris Jericho winning. Victoria versus Lita ended with Victoria winning, which we've already discussed. The Hurricane and Rosie versus La Resistance ended with the Hurricane and Rosie winning. Edge versus Kane ended with Edge winning. And obviously the main event, Benoit won by tapping out Shawn Michaels.
And of course, Randy Orton and Cactus Jack, you said that was the main one from that show. Have you seen that match?
I've heard a lot about the match. I don't think I've seen it, but I might have. I can't really remember, to be honest.
I think the main ones, the main spots are the throwing Foley off the stage through the barbed wire, and then Orton going through the tacks. Those are the two like iconic bits from it. But I would say Randy Orton was made there in terms of like how people might have perceived him before, but then really going through that hardcore brutal battle, kind of coming out the other side way more popular than he was before. I think he even had some chants for him on this night as well. So that's what happened at Backlash. Do you want to do SmackDown now? I
didn't get the SmackDown results, but I will talk about what happened. If you want to know what happened on SmackDown, Deadlock have done an episode on the SmackDown before this. So shout out Deadlock. But basically the main takeaway is Big Show threw Kurt Angle off a ledge and killed him.
But only his leg. Killed his leg.
Oh, killed his leg. Well, he killed him in kayfabe, and then he came back.
Yeah, I mean, he fell off the roof, fell off the ledge, cracked his head open. You just peer down from Big Show's POV, and Kurt Angle's got blood pouring out of his head. But all it took was he was only in a wheelchair for like a couple of months, and that's all the damage it did. So I'd say he got off pretty lightly, considering how dramatic it was. But that's what happened on SmackDown. Eddie's also the champion over on SmackDown, WWE champion.
And can we just talk about for a second, because I know people in the comments probably don't want to know this, but isn't it eerie that both world champions are dead within 3 years?
It's really weird. Like, especially like watching in hindsight, it does ruin the moment. Like, I can't watch WrestleMania. Like, I would never have watched WrestleMania 20 because I wasn't watching at that time, so I don't have that same connection to it. But so I can't go back and watch like that moment between Eddie and Benoit. It's just weird to think that both world champions at this time, they're not even here 3 years later. So yeah, very eerie indeed. But yeah, and Benoit's like really being pushed on this show tonight. Excuse me, I'm not choking up, but he's very much the focal point of Raw at the moment. along with Triple H and Evolution. So, yeah, that's kind of what's going on in the company. I guess we can get right into Raw then. We're here from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, the night after Backlash, and we get the iconic Cross the Nation intro. Do you like this introduction song?
Possibly WWE's best introduction. It's still before, what's the one SmackDown gets? The Rise Up.
Yeah, Rise Up.
Oh, that to me, that was the best one. I don't care. I understand people love Across the Nation, but I love Rise Up, especially because you have like Benoit doing the throat slit. I shouldn't say throat slit, but never mind. You have Rey Mysterio doing where he's jumping, and then TNA obviously ripped that off by having AJ Styles doing a phenomenal forearm to the screen. You have Undertaker doing something. You have Batista shaking the ropes like Ultimate Warrior, but Ultimate Warrior was a massive see you next Tuesday, so we can swear now on YouTube. Let's go. Before that, there was women featured. Oh, I love the SmackDown Rise Up. We're not talking about SmackDown, sadly.
I still like this Raw intro. It's one that I don't want to say it's a rare one, but it's like the one where you've still got like, this is before the it's just after the 2004 draft, where I think they got a couple new faces, but it's mostly the same, to be honest. The main thing here is that big intro, and we don't even get pyro. We get right into the action because Jericho's music hits. This is also probably my favourite Chris Jericho theme song.
What is it?
It's not my one. No, it's a version of Break the Walls Down, but it cuts. It's like Y2J, but it counts down to 2, and then it just cuts in and immediately goes to Break the Walls Down, and it's got more of a bass to it. So it's quite. I like it. It's when he just turned face. And it's all colourful too.
It's live as My World.
Oh yeah,
is it My World?
King of My World.
King of My World. King of My World. Oh, it's so crap, but it's great.
New metal. It's like peak new metal, isn't it? Generic rock new metal. But I love it as well. I love Saliva, even though it's kind of cringe.
Jarrett should have used that.
Yeah.
King of my world.
World. There's a tag team. There's a tag team for the ages. A mashup that's waiting to happen. So, yeah, Chris Jericho kicks off the night, and we kick off the night with a match. No Triple H promo on this night. Thank God, because that's what I was thinking when I was watching Raw. I was like, oh no, there's going to be like a long 20-minute promo seg to kick off. But no, we kick off with a huge match between Chris Jericho and Christian, a WrestleMania rematch, kind of a rematch from last night from Backlash, but they had Trish Stratus involved in that one. So they lock up to start, and then Jericho gives him a shot in the corner and then headlocks. So Christian and Jericho keep fighting each other. They start chopping as well. And this one is fought at a really frantic pace. I love the kind of wildness of it, the way that Jericho rebounds off the ropes as if he's been thrown with such force. He's like he's been shot out of a cannon coming at Christian. Christian does fight back, and then a couple of drop kicks as well. It doesn't look, completely crisp, I would say, but it does have a kind of ferocity to it that is very much... it's good for a TV match. It really gets the crowd pumped up. So they do a couple of pinfall reversals as well, and then Chris Jericho, he's distracted by Trish Stratus and then picks her up and spanks her over his knee. But yeah, apart from the match was fine up until that point. But when we come back from break as well, we get a couple of near falls as well as some slowing down by Christian. So it's fought at a good pace. I quite like it. Trish continues to play into the heel tendencies of Christian, helping him on the outside to give some cheap shots to Jericho. And then Jericho wipes them both out, literally clatters. Christian barely gets any of it. It's Trish Stratus who gets the most of this crossbody from Jericho. And the crowd is real fired up for this one. Of course, Chris Jericho from Canada. I know Christian is as well, but they're really cheering on Jericho here. And Christian manages to hit a great clothesline and then more choking in the ropes, but then Jericho fights back. It's very much a back and forth contest, and then Jericho sets up for the Lion Salt, misses it, and then hits a insecurity for 2. From the top rope as well. Butterfly suplex from Jericho. Looked fantastic, I will say. And I don't know, are there any other highlights from this match that you picked up on?
I just want to talk about their gears, because I absolutely think this is Christian and Chris Jericho's best gears.
Christian looks like he's wearing a big nappy underneath, though.
Aw. You're not a fan of the WrestleMania 20 tights, no?
I like the tights themselves. I just think they look too big on him. I can't explain it.
But I thought Christian had his theme. His not last year on Raw.
If you close your eyes, that one.
Yeah, close your eyes.
Yeah, we're not there. We're not quite there yet, which is a shame. I think it's later on in the year that he gets that first. So yeah, I was disappointed as well. I wanted to hear that, but it may have made him a bit too over otherwise. So yeah, Christian and Jericho, we're getting to the end here. The ref's distracted. Jericho goes after Trish Stratus and then gets the walls of Jericho on Christian. But then, who should run in?
Test.
Not quite.
It's Tomko.
He doesn't have a great start to his WWE career, does he?
Yeah, he absolutely. I don't know if you see it, but when he big boots Jericho, like Test. Well, he's not dead at this point, but Test would have been rolling in his grave had he been dead at this point. He basically, I don't know why it cracked me up so much. He basically big boots Jericho, but instead, because you know when you big boots are when you're supposed to land on your feet.
Yeah, he's supposed to lean forward.
Yeah, Tomko goes, mate, I'm telling you, this is the new way of doing it. This is how the hip kids do it on the streets, yo, what's up? He big boots Jericho, and he absolutely falls on his own.
Falls flat on his ass, and that's what does it in for Chris Jericho. And after that big boot, Christian gets the win at 16 minutes-ish. So, yeah, what did you think of this match? I really enjoyed it.
Best match of the night.
Yeah, I was surprised that we were going to get, it's Raw. I didn't think we were going to get like a quality matchup here, but for a solid near 20 minutes, it was really good fun.
Tomko falling on his arse makes it though.
And Tomko falling on his arse, yeah. It's kind of like an accidental Claymore kick.
Yeah, Tomko is the inventor of the Claymore kick, if you look at it.
He has to, he boots him in the face, and then he falls on his arse, and he has to pretend like he's some tough guy. And I bet on the inside he's thinking, oh my god, what have I done? But yeah, luckily, he'll be fine. He ends up... So this is the debut of Tomko. In terms of his look, I think he's got an incredible look. What about you?
Oh, I love his look. I don't like his tattoos, because his tattoos literally look like... like when you create a wrestler on 2K, or this time, Here Comes the Pain.
That's why I like his tattoos so much, is because they're so generic and they're so create a wrestler. I love it.
I just like to imagine he walked in with a Here Comes the Pain screenshot that he took on his low-res camera and went, look, mate, I'll pay you £100. Can you do me these tattoos? Yeah. And the man went, no problem, Tomko.
Do that one. Yeah. So we go backstage after the match as well, and Christian calls him the Problem Solver, which I think is a great nickname because he solves problems. And he's now the bodyguard for Christian and Trish Stratus.
I couldn't hear it because all I kept hearing in the background was and I was like, oh, fuck, he's here.
Chris Benoit is here and he's really angry. Actually, he's happy here.
I'm actually shocked that they actually paid to keep the license for the theme, because I thought, looking at hindsight, I'm not going to obviously say it, but I thought in hindsight they'd be like, well, he's Chris Benoit. Do we really want to license the theme? But they licensed the theme. It shocks me. Because Sean O'Hare's, come on, give me whatever you want. Come on. Yeah. They never re-licensed that, and I understand Sean O'Hare didn't do what Chris Benoit did. But it's just weird. I'm so confused. He has whatever. It's so weird to me.
Yeah, I think it's because it was on the WWF album. It was made for the album, for the WWF one, the Forcible Entry. So maybe that's why they get around it. It's because it's a WWE song,
Well, it's not, because Daniel, or not that, I keep confusing him. David wants to use that song now. keep confusing him for Daniel.
Yeah,
I've been doing this since last night. God damn it.
Oh, God. He's the... Yeah, he wants to use it, but... I don't know. It's... The kids... Well, I say kids, you know what I mean. The guy's working through trauma, I guess, still. As you would.
Because we'll never get to talk about David Benoit again. We will... Like, if we talk about him again, it would be very rare. But can we just talk about the fact that he wants to make his career a Chris Benoit swan song?
Maybe...
Like, David...
Maybe don't do that. Maybe... but, you know, who am I to say? He's his... It's his dad, isn't it? Like...
Yeah, but like...
I wouldn't want to ever be in that position, so I can't imagine how I would try and cope.
Like, no, I understand he's your dad, you love him, right? But how I compare it, it's like if you were a big fan of Jimmy Savile, all the accusations come out about Jimmy Savile being a nonce, and then you went, well, you know what? I love him so much, I'm going to do a parody act around the world of me being Mr. Savile. You're like, you're going to sit there and you're awkwardly going to be like, can't laugh at this.
There's Brit wrestlers right now taking notes and thinking, "Oh, that's a good gimmick."
But you know what I mean, David. Like, I feel so bad for him because to me he would have been a great wrestler had. Jesus, Chris Benoit's attacking me.
Oh my God!
But he would have been a great wrestler had Benoit still been alive to train him. It's the problem, I think. He could have been a great wrestler had his father trained him, but. The problem is, Chris Benoit is the literal one of the best wrestlers, whether we like to admit it or not. He is absolutely one of the best. People can deny it, I don't care. Just from pure in-ring perspective, he's one of the greatest to ever do it. Bit of a bully backstage, but so was Eddie Guerrero and Sparky Plug Bob Holly.
Yeah, objectively, yeah, I agree. You know... And it obviously come up if you talk about him, especially here when he's like so beloved at this time. And I know we were talking about how weird it is to see all this, like in hindsight, how popular he was with the crowd. He still holds that world title really weird, and I can't, you know, the way he holds it up, he doesn't hold it properly.
He holds it like on his shoulder, but it kind of floats.
Yeah, it feels like he holds he holds one of the side plates up rather than. You know, I love when Batista holds it up, you know, where it like flips back. I love when The Rock does his flipping back, but the way Benoit holds it is so unnatural.
The thing is, I understand, right? Because he was going to be a world champion. I will admit that. He would have been a world champion no matter what. No matter in what reality, literally, if Thanos snapped us into a different reality, he would have still been a world champion. But the belt just does not work for him. It's the height for me because he has, like, to me, small man syndrome.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
He's like I know he's like 5'10", but like look at him, he's a very small man. Like all I can think of is his child holding it. Is all I can think of.
Yeah. No, I get you. He's like, I will say though, that belt looks so shiny. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, Benoit must have been cleaning that belt.
I bet. Polishing that shit.
Backstage with a toothbrush. He's like, I gotta get the scratches out. God damn you, Hunter.
Yeah. Spit shining it. This is a super...
I don't know why. It's just imagining Triple H sat back there with Randy Orton, Batista and Flair with a bunch of women, and then you just pan over to Benoit with a toothbrush, just quickly go, oh, fuck.
Yeah. He cuts a boring promo.
Yeah. Okay, we can talk about how Gray's in the ring. Benoit could not cut the promo to save his life.
He maxed out his wrestling skills. He spent all his experience. He spent all his XP on wrestling and none on charisma.
Yeah, unless David somehow reads this, then sorry, David, your dad was a bit of shit on the mic.
Yeah, but I suppose, you know, if you want to be like a wrestler, then that's what you got to do. But it's strange how, you know, guy's been doing it for 20 years at this point, so, almost 20 years at this point. So, you know, I find it weird how wrestlers after performing for so long don't like gain any like mic skills. Do you know what I mean?
Some wrestlers do, and some wrestlers don't.
Because, you look at the progression of, like, a Roman Reigns, for instance, and see how bad he was, like, a couple of years ago and how confident he is now. And I just suppose that comes with practice, really. But, yeah, like, now he's the champion, he's got to cut these promos, and it's just exposition, I should say, here.
Well, if I can cut you off for a second, right, now, I don't mean any offence by this, but Benoit never cared about how to cut a promo. He cared about his physique and how to wrestle. Like, if we're being honest here, and I this will sound controversial, he cared more about wrestling than he did about his family. Like, let's be honest. Like, I mean, this man lived, breathed, ate, sleep, shitted wrestling. Like, if he wasn't doing wrestling, he was doing wrestling. Like, it's always mental to me when people talk about Benoit. I'm literally like, yes, that man eats, slit, shat, even suplexed wrestling. Like Benoit was so, what's the word, obsessed with wrestling and becoming a wrestler that he could not focus on real life. I think that's where all the downfall starts, is you were too focused on one thing, mate. Instead of loving your family, you were too focused on trying to be a perfect wrestler. And your physique.
Obsessive. Like, so, I suppose, yeah. The thing is, though, I suppose as a world champion, especially in WWE, I feel like, you need to have a little bit more to you. You need to at least learn. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But that's fine. Like, I guess if that's what you want to be, that's the character you want to be. It's just a boring promo, really. Maybe gave him too much time out there. If he had, like, he did thank Stu Hart, which was nice, I guess.
Stu, it cuts up the heavens. Stu has Jesus in like a lock. He's like, stretch him. Moses is just screaming, stretch him, Stu, stretch him. And then Stu is taking down Jesus, put him in an ankle lock, screaming, yeah, let's fucking go.
Open him up. The thing.
I don't know why I'm imagining Stu as Park Angle. I don't know why. He's
just running off like the gates, doing like a running somersault like Kurt did to Abyss.
He's like, I don't know why, he's like the mix of Tony Khan and he's a fresh pile of snow mixed with Kurt Angle, obviously Adam Parker's ex. That's why I think of Stu Hart.
Oh, I want to see a cartoon of Stu Hart. Anyway, so we're in Canada, so obviously when Shawn Michaels comes out, he gets booed. Because he's like, oh no, I actually beat you, Benoit. Even though you lost already, you've lost twice now. And now he gets another shot later on. But Benoit accepts the challenge. We think it's going to happen tonight. And I was like, oh, I'm excited. I thought, maybe it will happen tonight. But then Eric Bischoff comes out with Johnny Nitro. Fun seeing him so early in his career. And they say, oh yeah, you can have the world title match. But in 2 weeks' time, so... Then Benoit offers his hand out to Shawn and then they shake hands. And, yeah, didn't like this segment, really. It was a bit boring to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, Benoit cannot cut a promo. He literally can't.
He sucks the charisma from everyone he's in the ring with as well, because even Shawn Michaels wasn't really on his game.
It's so weird talking about Benoit in a positive light nowadays, but yeah.
I know. Well, I would say, yeah, that as well made it very strange, where everyone's like super... It's like a masturbatory Benoit fest over here.
It's so weird. He does suck. He does literally kill the air. I'm going to use that wording correctly. He does literally kill whoever's in the ring he's with, like, on the mic. Like, he literally sucks the charisma out of them. I don't know how he did it. Like, Edge, one of the best promoists in WWE, later on cuts a boring promo.
Oh god, yeah, it's horrible, but we'll get into that later. It's like the whole show is like devoid of charisma, really. It's very odd. I will say though, I was going to make a point about how weird this was. Like when they talk about films, if you watch them backwards, they're a different film. Like 127 Hours, if you watch it backwards, is about a man finding an arm in the desert. Or an amputee finding an arm in the desert. If you were to watch Benoit's career backwards, it's a man who murders his family No, brings his family back to life and then is praised for it.
Oh, Jesus.
Is that too dark?
No.
Women's titles on the lineup next. Victoria taking on Molly Holly. Molly Holly has had her head shaved at WrestleMania, and I don't know if this is the first appearance of her, but since then, I could be wrong, but it's a rematch from WrestleMania, basically. Victoria shaved Molly's head. Molly Holly offered to shave her head at WrestleMania to get the women's title on the card. That's crazy. But yeah, they have a little match. It doesn't last long, though. The time they're given, they do some interesting stuff. If they were given more time, it would have been excellent, but I suppose it's the women's division back then anyway, isn't it? So, yeah, eventually Molly gets what happens? She gets hit with a standing moonsault, and then Victoria rips the wig off, and it's supposed to be this massive reveal, but not gonna lie, Molly Holly, she rocks that buzz cut.
Yeah.
Because I was expecting, like, not that it'd be funny or anything. Like, I'm thinking in WWE terms. If she was, like, completely shaven bald, then maybe you'd go, oh, but not gonna lie, the haircut, I'm digging it. Maybe that's just
so weird, because this would not happen in modern day, where, like, Becky Lynch would not go up to... Jesus, Benoit, stop killing me. Becky Lynch would not go up to Triple H and be like, look, I'm going to shave my head if you put me on the card. Like, the women's champion is now put on the card.
Yeah, it's wild. And I'll tell you what as well, I reckon if Becky Lynch shaved her head, maybe people would be in uproar, but she'd rock it as well.
Yeah.
It's that kind of Sinead O'Connor type look.
Yeah.
Shaved head. I don't know. Maybe
I know.
But like just the thought of it being like a point back then. Like if it was like completely like, if it was like Kurt Angle, shiny head, then that might be a better spot. But this is it's just a haircut now. Like it's growing back a little bit.
Are we talking Kurt Angle where he's bald and he has the little stubble?
Yeah.
Oh, when he's skinny. Oh no.
Oh no, not perk angle, not crackhead angle. I'm talking like fresh off the barber chair angle.
Pop down the strass screen. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, talking of boldies, we'll talk about one in a bit. But first of all, Triple H and Evolution arrive. So all the Evolution members come out of the limo. It looks like Batista's gonna smack that title into Ric Flair's face. Luckily, he doesn't. So Orton's the IC champ. Batista and Flair are the tag champions. And the only one without a belt is Triple H, and he looks furious about this. And then he comes in and he hears that Shawn Michaels are getting a title shot, and he says, "Not on my watch." And he walks out to the ring, so there you go. And then we get a vignette with Kane, and he says, "I'm a monster, I'm mean." And Kane, this is pretty scary if you ignore the fact that he lost to Edge at the pay-per-view. But he wants to sacrifice. Oh, who's it going to be? Well, Eric Bischoff has an idea of who it's going to be. William Regal comes in. Yeah, well, William Regal comes in, and he's supposed to be looking after Eugene, but he's been lost. Where could he be? And Eric says, if you don't find Eugene, then you will be sacrificed to Kane. So, oh dear, needs to find him. Yeah. We'll talk about Eugene later, because there's an interesting little segment. First of all, though, Randy Orton comes out. And again, Randy Orton, boring promo.
I think it's just Benoit. I think they're all scared shitless.
Maybe, I don't know, but it's weird because Randy Orton, he is retired Mick Foley. He battered him. He destroyed him. He's bragging about it, but he's quite humble here,
He's just like a child who wants a sweet. He's just like, yeah, I beat Mick Foley. Yeah, it was all right. It was pretty good. Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I respect.
Benoit, don't hit me.
Yeah. So yeah, he's like, he's cut up, he's bruised. He seems quite humble, to be honest. And then Edge comes out, not with My Durango. I think did he drop the Rob Zombie at this time?
I think he dropped it. I think.
Oh, that's a shame, because his theme song here doesn't fit. I feel like My Durango works better for this Edge now he's back than it did before, and he doesn't have it. Bit of a shame. And then he comes out to interrupt Randy Orton, and he says, "Spit in my face, huh?" spit in my face, and then Randy Orton goes, I'm tired and sore, and I'm like, yeah, damn right he is. Why are you being such a prick, Edge? And also, Edge is so devoid of charisma here.
Okay, it's just the fact that I like to imagine Benoit stood backstage. He has this chokehold where he's like, "You're all gonna be boring," and they're all, "Are you okay, Mr. Benoit? Okay, please don't hurt us, Benoit, please."
He does. He livens up a bit. He livens up a bit when he tells Orton to spit in his face. Some men would pay for that. Some women would pay for that even. And the Edge, Orton says, I'm not going to fight you now, I'm too sore. And then Edge, like the hero he is, beats up a man who has been through a war the night before. Great babyface. And then Evolution comes in and batters Edge instead. And then Benoit makes the save, and then Triple H clobbers him and hits him with a pedigree. And so Evolution on top. And Eric Bischoff, haha, screw you, Edge and Benoit. Tonight, you're going to have to face Evolution you're going to get a title match for the World Tag Team titles. Huh? Why does that make any sense?
That does not make any sense, Bischoff.
Bischoff's like, ha, they're going to put the titles on the line against you to punish you. And it's like, they've got a chance to win the championships. Why are Evolution so happy about that? This whole thing's so stupid. I hated this segment.
It's just the fact that everyone seemed like they were walking on eggshells.
It's weird. What is that? It's like, there are no good, like, it's, I don't know, like, it felt like the show peaked with the first match and then it just went downhill.
I just can't describe, like, for the audience, I can't describe it, but literally, it's like Benoit was literally told everyone to walk on eggshells and they're all like, okay, Mr. Benoit, if you say so.
Or Benoit's got such little charisma that they're like, we can't have our world champion seem to be less charismatic than the rest of the roster, so everyone else needs to tone it back.
Benoit is sat there. Do you ever see that gif of Benoit where he's at Toys R Us and it's that pose where he has his fist in his hand and he's looking very mean and very angry?
Oh my god.
That's just Benoit backstage, like, if any of you little shits got a better problem than me, I swear to Christ, you won't be seeing Jesus where I'll be putting you.
I feel like that wouldn't bother him. It wouldn't bother him, but it might bother the people in charge or booking, because it does fit. It's a weird vibe here on this show. I don't know. The 2004 wasn't one of WWE's best years. Let's be honest.
No, it wasn't. It was TNA's best years.
Even TNA, it was like they were getting there. I think 2005 was way better for WWE and TNA. Just in terms of overall storylines, you know, this is like, it's the foundation of the future in 2004. You know, the likes of Edge, Orton, they're not quite at the main event level yet, but they're about to break through, you know? So I think maybe you've got to suffer a little bit to get to WrestleMania next year where Cena and Batista are like main guys. And again, it's weird to see Batista here thinking that in a year's time he's going to be the one to be the massive star and not Orton.
It's... Right, how can I describe this? It's so weird because Benoit and Guerrero, now I understand people are going to be like, but Guerrero is one of the best. Right, but just listen to me for a second. It's almost like Benoit and Guerrero were transitional champions. Because neither of them, right, how can I put this? In 2004, if you were, right, so you would have been, I'd assume, let me just think for a second, you were born in 98, 2004, you would have been 6 years old. So if your mom flew you to America and she went, Ferg, you're going to see Angle, Big Show, like, you would be hyped to see the Big Show, Kurt Angle, but like, Eddie Guerrero or Benoit is not drawing you to that show.
I think,
to be honest.
I think Eddie would, because Eddie had the showmanship that Benoit doesn't, you know, whereas if you look at both of their trajectories, you notice that both weren't very charismatic, you know, in their early years. But Benoit, he got a little bit more charismatic, but that's not saying too much. But Eddie Guerrero went all in and improved so much in the charisma department and like the acting department. You know what I mean? Where he,
you know what's weird
got it.
Though?
Yeah.
Benoit was literally so again, 1998. Benoit was literally in the Four Horsemen. How can you be the most boring member of the Horsemen when Mongo's in it?
I know. Literally.
You think, like, because it's the same. I compare it to Wheeler Yuta now. No, I'm not comparing a murderer to Wheeler Yuta, but I'm comparing the fact that it's like Wheeler Yuta has been put in the Blackpool Combat Club. Yes, he can't cut great promos, but he's learning. It's the same in Jungle Boy. Jack Perry was teamed with Christian. He learned, and he can cut some alright promos. Like, it's so weird. Benoit was put with Flair and Anderson, who can cut great promos, and Mongo, who can cut an alright promo, and Pillman, who could cut a great promo. And he never learned from any of them. He just sat there, and they were like, take notes, kid. And he's like, okay, I will. And then in the WWE, he's like, there's supposed to be this big bad meanie where he's like, do 50 push-ups or I'll shove your head in a locker. And then they're like, okay, Mr. Benoit, please. It's so weird.
It's very strange.
How different his career is.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's one of them things where you kind of wonder, but at the same time, I don't know. If he had an ounce more, like, if he had any promo, like, I'm not saying he was a bad promo, but he's just not the... Have you seen the Starrcade 97 promo we cut?
I haven't, no.
Where he's talking to Raven and he's stumbling over his words, and he's like, quote, the Benoit nevermore, and he's trying to do this profound speech to Raven, and it does not work at all, and so I guess he improved a little bit, but it is what it is. Someone who had a lot of charisma without having to speak a word of English was Tajiri. You know what I mean?
It's so weird. Benoit, literally, it's so weird. Jesus, he's choking me. It's so weird. Like, I just can't describe. I know Eddie. I think the problem with Eddie though was SmackDown wasn't drawing near enough. Either was Raw, and Eddie was like, "Oh, it's all my fault." Where the guys were like, "It's not your fault, Eddie," and that's why Eddie got so anxious and stuff. And then Benoit, I think, felt the same as well. They're not drawing. It's my fault. They would say Benoit, it's all right, but they were like, "It's okay, Benoit, please." Please.
I wouldn't say it's his. I wouldn't say it's his fault though, because I think that the crowd was really on board with him, even still, and I probably would have been as well at the time. Like, but now in hindsight, I'm just not. Well, to be fair, I'm not as big of a wrestling guy as I was. I know I'm talking on a wrestling podcast, but still, like, I don't keep up with wrestling anymore. It just doesn't interest me as much as it did, and I think one of the few things I'm interested in are like promos and segments. Like, I used to be like a big wrestling guy, and now I'm not. I'm way more casual about it, so I'm more into my promos and stuff. Like, if Cody's going to cut, for instance, nowadays, Cody and Roman are going to have a segment, then I'll make sure I check that out. Or if, like, Cena comes back to, speak on the mic, I'll watch that. But, yeah, I guess that's also why ratings are down. And it's, I don't know. I feel like there are still good promos on the roster, and it's just... They've used all the wrong people.
See, I think it's just the problem, right? Because I know we're not even for the halfway through the show, but I think I know what the problem was. Did you ever go on a roller coaster and it goes so high up, you're like, oh my god, it's so amazing, how is it going to end? And then it just goes down very quickly and you're like, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
Just take that into wrestling. Like the 90s, oh, we're so high up. WCW is bought by WWE. Oh, and we're down. Oh, Oscar and Rock are leaving. All right. Oh, and Lester's leaving. Oh, no. And Goldberg's leaving. Oh. Is he going to TNA? Oh, no, he's not. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, it was a very high whoa and a very low no.
Yeah, they're trying to get out of a funk. They're trying to get out of a big funk. Oh yeah, and a fun sign I saw in this night as well. Steve Austin's got the fuck fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck spousal abuse. That was a nice sign.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, and I was like,
hopefully that sign was that shown in the Benoit promo.
I think it might have been. I think it might have been just in the background.
Oh no! Oh, that did not.
Jesus Christ, no! For a number of reasons, but yeah, Austin's also out the door at this point. So
yeah, like all your major, like I'm not saying like Benoit and Guerrero aren't major stars. But when you place them between Batista and Cena, and then Austin and Rock, Benoit and Guerrero don't fit that puzzle, if that makes sense. Like, Cena fits that puzzle. So the fans love Cena.
I feel as though, now, I could be wrong here, okay? But if they'd have done Benoit continuing his story on SmackDown as opposed to Raw, and have Eddie be the one to transfer over to Raw to take on Michaels and Triple H, I know the matches were great between Benoit and Triple H and all that, don't get me wrong, but I feel like both could have benefited a lot, because SmackDown's a much more wrestling-centric show for Benoit to be on, you know? And
they just got it wrong, I think.
Yeah, and like, you think like Raw is the place full of like the charismatic dudes, whereas SmackDown is more wrestling focused. So, you know, and it's taped, so you could cut around Benoit if he's having a bad promo. You know, you could cut around that. And Eddie is a much better live performer. It's just weird how they sorted it.
I do think Eddie should have won the 2004 Royal Rumble, though. I understand it was written for Benoit, but in hindsight, lads.
Oh yeah, in hindsight, obviously, but I can also understand. Like, obviously, the Eddie and Lesnar thing is iconic, and then likewise, he's had some interesting segments with JBL. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to do like a deep dive into what could have happened had they switched roles, because Benoit was always on track to face Lesnar at some point. It's just weird that it never properly happened.
But I will admit, if Eddie was on Raw, we wouldn't have got that iconic promo of JBL at the border. I love that promo so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
JBL is another character we have to discuss at some point. He's so great.
Oh yeah, JBL's great around this time as well. Like, he's one of the few. I know people rag on it back then, but like, in terms of like entertainment value, he's way up there. And even like wrestling wise, like I watched his match against Eddie from the month after this at Judgment Day, the one where Eddie bleeds like a faucet, and that's a really good match, way better than I remember it being. So that's one to check out if you've not seen it before, Eddie and JBL at Judgment Day. But yeah, we'll get back to Raw here. I'm sick of talking about Benoit for the moment, but we will talk about him later because they got a tag team title match. But first, we've got Garrison Cade and Tajiri. Garrison Cade is the most generic looking wrestler here, far from Lance Cade, because I love Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch. I love that team. That was like one of my favourite teams when I was, in terms of like loving to hate them, you know, I would always love watching them against the Hardys when I got into wrestling. And yeah, here he's just incredibly generic, and he's being managed by the coach for some reason. Tajiri faces Garrison Cade here. Hits a couple of kicks. It's not really much of a match. But yeah, Cade goes to well, he no-sells a tarantula first, and then Tajiri misses a moonsault, and then Cade hits a flying elbow or something at 4-5 minutes ish. Even that felt like it went too long. And Coach on commentary, I hate Coach. I just don't like Jonathan Coachman. I can't put my finger on it.
Understandable.
It might be. It's kind of go away heat with me, maybe. I guess. But yeah, Cade is not. It's weird what they're doing with him here. Like, why they're pushing him. So, well, I say pushing him. You know what I mean? Why they're even featuring him at the moment. But it's interesting. Didn't like this match. What about you?
Didn't mind it whatsoever. It was an okay match. No, your 5-star classic, but you know, it's a match.
Yeah, I guess. It would have been nice to see Tajiri against someone else, but I know why they're doing it here.
Coachman, where?
Oh, also, can I mention as well, because I was interested to know what happened on Heat, what the Heat tapings were like on this show, and
yeah,
dude, Shelton Benjamin versus Rhino was the main event of Heat. That's insane. I would have loved to have watched that match on this Raw.
What, but Tajiri versus Garrison Cade on Heat, and Henchman versus Rhino on Raw?
Yeah.
I think
suppose
Henchman was still part of SmackDown at this point.
What'd you say?
I think he was still part of SmackDown at this point.
Who? Shelton? No, because he beat Flair at the pay-per-view.
Oh yeah. Because he. Oh yeah.
And he's beaten Triple H as well on Raw already. And the fact that he beat Flair at the pay-per-view and then he wasn't even featured on Raw tonight.
We don't talk about the fact his debut match against Triple H for obvious reasons.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
For obvious reasons. Do you know why the reason is?
Because Triple H doesn't want to lose.
No, it's not that.
Oh, what is it?
Ben was heavily featured in that match, and they're like,
oh, I see, of course. Yeah.
Kind of, Shelton Benjamin arrived on Raw, and that was it.
Yeah, he was on Raw, and then that's it. But yeah, I would be interested to go back and watch that Shelton and Rhino match. I might find it after this and maybe have a look at it, because that would have been more interesting than this. And also, yeah, we come back from break as well, and we've got Eugene shooting out T-shirts into the crowd with Lillian Garcia, and then William Regal comes out and says, no, come with me. And then, can you describe what happens?
He gets shot in the dick.
Ah, my groin. William Regal presents man getting hit by T-shirt. Yeah. Eugene popular, though.
What is your thoughts on Eugene, the character now?
I don't know. Like, they shouldn't have done it. But at the same time, he was quite over.
It's very weird in hindsight, isn't it? Like, on one hand, I understand it's in bad taste, but on the other hand, he was so over. It's mental. They
treated him with way more respect than you might think as well. I just think, and then I'm thinking, okay, maybe actually get someone with a mental disability to do that. But then would that be in more bad taste because they're actually, you know?
Although I do think Eugene should debut at WrestleMania in LLW. I think.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, maybe, of course.
Shooting out T-shirts out of a cannon. Yeah.
Yeah, shoot him into Gronk's cock, maybe.
Oh, damn it, why Gronk? Can it not be the commissioner?
No, it's got to be Gronk. I can't even remember what happened on MLW at this point.
Groin.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Said Adam Cheely's Gronk.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Next up, mixed tag team match. Val Venus and Lita versus Matt Hardy and Gail Kim. But wait, no match. Kane comes out, he's furious. Matt Hardy runs...
The wonder of the world is come now, but sure.
Matt Hardy, though... Matt Hardy fact, he makes the bed real quick, and... what was the other one? He says something about...
Yeah, 44 different action figures.
Yeah, 44 different action figures. Interesting for a wrestling figure collector such as ourselves. So then Lita is going to be chokeslammed by Kane. But then Matt Hardy comes in and saves her.
I can slap a sick freak. I can dry hump a sea. Ain't no with me.
So yeah, turning face. Matt Hardy turning face here to help out Lita. Hopefully this angle between Matt Hardy, Lita and Kane is in good taste. We'll have to wait and see.
Is this the one where Lita gets pregnant and loses the baby?
Yeah, and then Snitsky punts the baby.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Good on you, Snitsky.
Yeah, Kane assaults Lita, gets her pregnant, and then becomes the good guy.
It's wrestling.
Yeah, turns face.
Look, I know I killed your baby, but like he punted a baby. It's like that thing. It's like two kids when they're with their mom, and like one of them pushes the other kid, and then they're like, but Bob, he pushed me. Yes, but you hit him. But he pushed me, so he's the bad guy. But you hit him. But he pushed me. He pushed me, and that's why it's just like he pushed me, so he's the worst one. I know I might have knocked a few teeth out, but he pushed me.
Yeah, that's so stupid. But yeah, that little angle. It wasn't a match; it was a little angle. But we get our main event. It's for the World Tag Team Championships. Ric Flair and Batista defend against Chris Benoit and Edge. Dream Team.
I can't look at that. I can't look at Benoit's theme anymore because I think I need to show you this video. This video cracks me up all the time. We can't put it on screen simply because Benoit's theme's in it. But let me find it.
It's the meme. It's the Elmo meme where the Benoit music starts playing and oh my god. I think it's funny because non-wrestling fans watch that and they don't get it. And then then wrestling fans in the comments are like, "Oh my god." And people are like, confused.
If you're wondering, the meme is when you've had a long day at work and your wife asks you if you still love her, even if she was the HDMI cable. And it's just Benoit's theme playing with Elmo staring into the camera.
Into space, yeah.
I love that video so much. That's why I can't think of Benoit's theme. I just think of Elmo.
Yeah, now Elmo, that's going to be it. I need to Photoshop that into a Benoit as Elmo. And to be fair, any Sesame Street characters would be good on this. Actually, you know what? Mr. Men, we haven't done that in a while, have we? What Mr. Man is Chris Benoit?
Oh, Jesus. I have to walk on eggshells here, so I have to be very careful.
Mr. Boring. Is there a Mr. Boring?
I'll have a look.
Well, I'll talk us through this match while you look. So Benoit and Flair start off, two former horsemen there. A couple of chops, good stuff. Flair getting battered by both men. And then Edge comes in to backdrop Flair and nice double teams as well. Flair flop and tagging Batista. And Edge, apparently his first match on Raw on TV since he got injured 15 months ago. So at least since February 2003, I think, is the last TV match. And now Batista battering Edge. And Edge has also got a broken wrist here, which serves him right for trying to smack Randy Orton earlier. And there's a snap suplex. Edge walks into a clothesline. Then eventually leg lariat. Benoit then comes in and backdrops Flair. Knocks Batista off the apron. Snap suplex. He hits that snap suplex beautifully, by the way. And sharpshooter Benoit. He's got a great snap suplex to him. And
I wouldn't put snap and Benoit in the same sentence.
Oh yeah, of course. Then Flair's in the crossface, and then Triple H comes in, tries to break it up, and that's when Flair pokes Benoit in the eyes. Spinebuster, and when we come back, there is a lot of rest holds. There are so many rest holds. Bear hug, headlock, chin lock, you name it. Just chokes. There's a lot of stalling after we come back from the break, and it slows down a lot, which is a shame. Then Triple H gets involved again, and that's when Shawn Michaels comes out, sweet chin music, and then while Batista is distracted, Edge hits the spear, 1, 2, 3, and we've got new tag team champions. The crowd goes ballistic. And Edge, I feel like got a lot of good rub and shine off of this. And then that's when they win the titles and they celebrate, and it's a big pop. And they're the new champions. So it's a nice way to end Raw. In terms of the babyfaces winning for once, and Evolution getting some comeuppance at least for once. I thought the main event was fine. There was a lot of but I wasn't that captivated by it. It went a bit too long for me. In terms of I don't know, just too many rest holds. It started off well and it ended okay, but it wasn't my favourite match in the world. But it's still nice a good ending and a good result. What did you think of this?
Can we just say, does Benoit have the best crossface? Did he have the best crossface?
Yeah.
Because I think it goes Benoit and then Bryan.
Yeah, I think so.
The best diving headbutt is Benoit, because Bryan, he sells it, but Benoit knew how to sell it. It's the thing.
It also looks like when Benoit jumps, he floats.
He does.
He's like a balloon. Right, or like a stone. He stays completely still, and that's why I think it looks good. What Mr. Man is he?
Mr. Nobody.
Oh, okay. Because we can't talk about him.
Actually, I have another one if you want me to. If you want one.
Yeah.
I had 4, but now I can't find it. He is also Mr. Forgetful, which that's a very dark one for people.
Yeah.
Or he's also Mr. Grumpy.
I think Mr. Grumpy is fair enough.
Or Mr. Quiet, because you can't cut a good promo.
Yeah, no, that's good. But this match, what did you think of it?
It was not the best match of the night, but Benoit, it's so weird because I love his in-ring action. He can do an excellent match.
Yeah,
but
it's getting him to cut promos, isn't it? That's the problem. I feel like he's got a lot of charisma in the way he wrestles.
Yeah, it's just, I'm imagining Finn's just like, Mr. Benoit. Then I was like, what do you want, punk? And then Finn's like, can you maybe cut a promo? And then I was like, fuck off. And he's like, oh, okay. But maybe cut a promo, fuck off. I don't know why I'm just imagining everyone so sort of quiet around Benoit. They're like, Benoit, can we have a pancake? Fuck off. That's all he responds with in a very angry voice is fuck off.
Fuck off. Yeah. Again, he's got a lot of charisma in the way he moves, and I think a lot of wrestlers do make up for their lack of maybe conversational ability on the mic to kind of translate that over into wrestling. So, he's got that in spades. But it was a decent show. I mean, it was okay. It was an easy watch. I'll say that. It dragged a lot at some points, but as a show, I'm sure I've watched worse ones. I think the fact that it opened up with a really, really good match between Chris Jericho and Christian, and the promos were not good on this night. And you think that this is the night after Backlash. It feels like a really lackluster kind of aftermath of Backlash, because they barely mention that Backlash was the night before. It feels like that show was completely inconsequential, even though Randy Orton had the biggest match of his career there, and Benoit retained the title in a massive match. It doesn't feel like they've really capitalised on that. I will say though, I loved the opening match. I thought even though the main event wasn't my favourite match ever, it still had a good ending to it. But the promos on this show were really weird. It just felt like everyone was devoid of any kind of... I don't want to say I'm the most charismatic person in the world, I'm just saying as an onlooker, it just felt like there was a lack of bite to some of their words. So overall, it wasn't one that you should go out your way to see, but maybe check out the opening match if you're curious. What about you? What do you think of this show?
It's a good show. It's just... It hasn't aged well, is the thing.
When a show is so centered around a singular murderer, it doesn't age too well. But
if we're talking in hindsight of 2004, so I was born in December 2003. This is April. I would have been about 4 or 5 months old, give or take. I think.
Yes.
Yeah, so 4-month piggy and 6-year-old Ferg at this point. I would have enjoyed it if I was a little bit older in 2004. I don't know if you would have enjoyed it in 2004, but I would have probably loved Mr. Angry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I first got into wrestling, I really did. I liked Benoit, but he wasn't one of my favourites. Is that true? I think he was one of my favourites in a sense, but it was I've probably said he was one of my favourites in the past, but I don't know. It was always that thing where I think as a kid I was kind of scared of him a little bit.
Everyone was, trust me.
Yeah, well, Jesus.
We're not just talking that because murderer, la.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Look at this guy's with Benoit. He is freakishly large. If you seen him in an elevator and his zip was down, his pants zip, you would not tell that man your fly is down. You would be scared to even say a word to him.
And he's a face as well. Don't forget, and he's still scary to me as a kid.
Yeah. All right, I'll put it in perspective of modern day. the reason why people thought Benoit was so scary is because think of Brock Lesnar. Yes, he's scary, isn't he? You think Brock Lesnar, oh no, he'll batter me. Think of Benoit, a man who's on steroids, is very short, and from what I've heard, had a short fuse in real life. Yeah, imagine him in an elevator. You would be scared. Like, he'd probably put up a face and probably be like, "Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I unbox action figures." But like, yeah, when you're a kid, you're probably like, "Oh no, Mom, can we not invite Benoit to the birthday party, please? He's gonna creep everyone out." And then your mom be like, "Okay, we won't invite him."
Yeah, he's got that when someone's got something to prove and nothing to lose, that's scary, you know. Like in terms of his wrestling character, that's what I mean. Like I'm just talking about what I saw on the screen. I'm not talking about him. You know, I'm just saying as a wrestling character. If you were to put me, because I would always be like fearful. I would always think, oh, if I'm in there, I'd be scared of like Umaga and the Great Khali. You know what I mean? But also Benoit, even though he's completely not presented that. You know, it's not like he's presented as like a monster. He's just presented as a really intense guy, and it's weird that comes across. But yeah, I didn't want this kind of discussion to get too dark. We were meant to be talking about Christian Cage. That's why we picked this show.
Well, but it is like it's hard to describe. But when you're a child watching wrestling, a wrestler is not supposed to be so intense. But Benoit was so intense, you could see a blood vessel pop.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, he's about to snap bear suplex me with my cough. But like Benoit was so tense. Like that's why I think, that's why when I look back at Benoit, I'm like, yeah. And I looked at the dark side of the ring. I'm like, yeah, I do kind of feel sorry for David, Nancy, Daniel, his ex-wife, and their daughter. I'm like, yeah. If he was my dad, I would be scared shitless. I would not ask him for $1 to go ride the magical pony. I would be like, "No, Dad, I am fine. Please, Dad, sit down. We're not playing Monopoly. Please, no, Dad, don't get out the Monopoly. No, Dad, please don't get out the Monopoly board." And then you play Monopoly with him, and you're like, "Oh no, he's gonna raise, he's gonna blow," and then he just.
Another Monopoly-related incident.
I'm just imagining him playing Monopoly, and then like when he gets into jail, he just the angled screams like, "Yeah!" He's like, flips the table. It's like, "Fuck this, fuck that, fuck you." That's all I'm imagining. It's just this little small man, because he is a small man. He's what height is he? He's 5'10", isn't he?
5'10", yeah.
Is he 5'10"?
I think around that, yeah. In Land of Giants as well. Yeah, I don't know if I wouldn't want to play Chris Benoit either. I'm sure it'd be very an intense experience, yeah. But this is the Christian Cage arc.
5'11", so he's the same height as me, but he somehow looks smaller. Like, that's weird.
You know what it is? I think saying I'm only like 6'2", but I'm talking as if they're like massively short. But the thing is, I think a lot of shorter men look shorter when they're ripped and shredded.
Yeah.
It's because it's just it's the width, isn't it? It's like if you're swole, like, and you look taller as well if you're skinny, because you just look lankier.
Yeah.
So yeah.
He died of 40. Jesus.
Yeah, it's grim. Garrison Cade died at 29 as well.
Yeah, it's like wrestling is so weird. Like all our wrestlers that we love either turn out to be murderers, severely depressed, or the nicest person in the world. There is no in between.
No, isn't it? It's weird. It's a horrible business to kind of look back on, because it's just filled with so much, like, you wouldn't think so, would you? But with wrestling, but it's such a where people pretend to play fight, how much drama and like horrible shit there is underneath the surface. That said,
Foley, for instance, I thought he'd be a prick in real life because, like, his body's been put through so much, and he's in like probably severe pain. Like I know he's probably not in severe pain now, but like when he stretches his leg a little bit, like it's gonna be like he got stabbed. Like I thought he'd be the meanest guy in the world simply because he's been put through so much. But Foley's like one of the nicest guys. And then you compare that to Benoit, who's literally what would have been the craziest thing he's done? A diving headbutt to the outside. And he's like so tense and so angry. And Foley literally fell off a cell. And Foley's like, yeah, have a nice day. Have a lovely Christmas. And Benoit's like, don't you look at me, child. Don't look at me. Look the other way. You're ugly. No one likes you. You're a little bitch. And you're like, oh, Benoit, that's not nice. And then Ben was like, I don't care. Spits in your face. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird.
I don't think we'll have a chance. I don't think we'll really have a chance to talk about Benoit for a while. But yeah, probably for the best. I think we've gotten a lot off our chest about it in this episode. I think this was the perfect Benoit episode to kind of look back on, because it is very like both a match and also having to speak. But yeah, I keep bringing it around to Christian Cage. That's what this arc is about. What did you think about Christian Cage's performance on this night?
Christian's performance was great, and somehow on a show full of non-charisma, he somehow was not full of charisma either. He was not Captain Charisma. He was Captain I am scared of Benoit.
Yeah, like
I say Benoit because it's just funny to imagine this ripped up steroid man.
He's just under everyone's thumb.
Dictating.
And everyone's under his thumb, and he's just controlling the... I think it's very much the opposite of that. I think Triple H is probably still pulling the strings. That's why he had to look good against Benoit on this night even. Yeah. But yeah, Christian had a good night. And
yeah, but it is funnier to imagine Benoit under everyone's thumb. Like Benoit has everyone under control. Because he's just so funny, like he's so small. Like you just want to slap him in the head. And be like, calm down, you silly bugger. Calm
silly
down.
Boy.
And then he turns around and gives you a boxing, like, oh Jesus, Benoit, that hurt.
Oh.
Benoit's like, don't ever slap me again, punk.
Give it a cauliflower ear. Yeah. To be fair, the next time we'll be with you, Benoit will not be the world champion, but Randy Orton will be, because next time we're doing Unforgiven 2004. Randy Orton versus Triple H in the main event, plus a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. The rivalry concludes between Christian and Chris Jericho. It will be a fun watch. I don't think I've ever seen Unforgiven 2004 before, so this will be a very interesting show. You haven't either, so again, we'll have a lot of new stuff to talk about, whether it be Christian, whether it be Randy Orton's title run. There'll be a lot to talk about, and we will see
Benoit,
you.
he might appear.
I think Benoit's also on this show, yeah. I think he's in a match. I think he teams with William Regal on this show, you know. So, that'll be interesting to watch.
Polar opposites there. William Regal, the jolly old man who was depressed. Benoit, the ripped up steroid man who you couldn't even look at without him calling you a little bitch.
Yeah, and also the Wrestling Observer voted worst match of 2004 on this show between Tomko, our boy, and Stevie Richards. And
okay, it's Stephen Richards' fault, not Tomko. R.I.P. Tomko.
What is he dead?
No, he's not dead.
Oh, thank God. Oh, that would have been horrible night to end on. But we'll end on this. We'll end on the dulcet tones of Piggy singing Randy Orton's "Burning My Light" theme in honor of our episode next week.
I'll have to get the. Can I sing Benoit's theme?
Yeah, sing Benoit's theme. Why not?
I can't Google Chris Benoit's theme, but it'll come up something else. I'll have to sing. Give me a second. I have to get this up. It's Our Lady Piss, isn't it?
Yeah, Our Lady. Cody Rhodes' favourite band.
Okay. These lyrics are dark. I'm not going to sing them. I'm going to read them out, right? Now listen to me read them out and think back to June 07 for me, alright? You ready?
Okay. This is a nice way to end.
Me back. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
There's no holding me back. I'm not driven by fear, I'm just driven by anger. And you're under attack. I'm just climbing up slowly on the one and only. The tease, the way you lie, stumble in your mind, the fear, the hope inside, they here. But whatever you need, ever you've got, ever you want, I'll take back again. The end.
Oh wow, brings a new meaning to the word slam poetry. We'll be back next week for Unforgiven 2004. In the meantime, stay safe, stay groovy, and we'll catch you later.